to spend 3 months auditioning every actress in town. He did this, oh my God, he was so affected by the character that I had played.
The biggest secret of my life isn't about success, it's about those who tried to destroy it. Mary Tyler Moore. She was a symbol of grace, humor, and independence, the face of a generation of American women who once dreamed of living like Mary Richards, strong, self-reliant, and always smiling despite the chaos of the world. But behind the spotlight, Mary's life was marked by quiet pain inflicted by the very people who once applauded her. From producers who dismissed her to family members who turned their backs when she was at her lowest, today at 80 years old, Mary Tyler Moore has decided to name the 5 people she hates the most. Not out of revenge, but to reclaim the truth. Who do you think she'll name first? A famous co-star? Or the man who once swore to love her forever? Leave a comment below and hit subscribe so you won't miss the next Untold Stories.
But I grew up in Flatbush with a bunch of kids who are still very vivid in my memory.
Why did Mary Tyler Moore remain silent for decades only to finally break that silence at the age of 80? The answer lies in a time when her smile was once a national symbol. Born on December 29, 1936 in Brooklyn, New York, to a Catholic Irish-American family, she began her career with silent roles in television commercials, gradually making her way to Hollywood through sheer determination and innate charm. But it wasn't until she portrayed Laura Petrie on The Dick Van Dyke Show that Mary truly rose to stardom, presenting American television with a new image of the modern woman, intelligent, witty, and unbound by societal norms. Her career reached its pinnacle with The Mary Tyler Moore Show, where she was not only the leading star but also a producer, playing a key role in redefining American television in the 1970s. Over her career, she earned 7 Emmy Awards, 3 Golden Globes, and an Academy Award nomination for her haunting performance as a grieving mother in Ordinary People, a role that left the nation stunned. She was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and in 2012, President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor a civilian can receive in the United States. But behind all the acclaim, she was a mother who lost her son in a tragic accident, a woman who endured 3 failed marriages, and someone who quietly battled diabetes and alcoholism. A woman who once made America laugh and then made it cry with her. And now, with the spotlight long gone, Mary needs no stage. No performance. Only the truth. And this time, she speaks to name those who left her heart beyond repair. What about you? Among the many faces once close to Mary Tyler Moore, who do you think deserves a place on the list of those she hated the most? Leave your comment below, and join us in the next chapter, where each name will be revealed, and every scar brought to light. The first name Mary mentioned wasn't an enemy, it was the man she once called her entire world. Grant Tinker, her ex-husband and co-founder of MTM Enterprises, was the man who stood behind the spotlight, holding her hand as they conquered Hollywood together, and also the first to let her fall because she trusted too much. They were the golden couple of the 1970s. She was a national television icon, he was a powerful producer who placed Mary on a throne. But behind every successful episode and every dazzling awards ceremony was a cold, empty house. Grant was absorbed in his work, while Mary slowly disappeared within a marriage everyone believed was perfect. She tried to hold on, clung to hope, pretended everything was fine until Grant finally admitted he no longer saw inspiration in her eyes. For Mary, it wasn't just a breakup. It was the collapse of the one thing she thought could keep her steady amid the chaos of showbiz, love. What made it worse was that after their split, Grant continued to use MTM to elevate younger actresses, the same ones who used to greet Mary by saying, "I grew up watching you on TV." And Mary realized, the light she once helped ignite in others had ended up burning her down. She didn't hate Grant for betraying her love, she hated him for taking away her faith in the art she once believed she could dedicate her life to, with the man she loved by her side. And when her heart had already been broken by someone she loved, Mary thought she might at least find kindness in the workplace among co-stars who had laughed and cried with her on set. But she was wrong. The next person to wound her wore the face of a dear sister and a smile that always seemed to hide a blade, Rose Marie. If Grant Tinker made Mary lose her faith in love, then Rose Marie was the one who shattered her belief in friendship. Together, they helped create The Dick Van Dyke Show, a landmark in American television, where viewers only saw laughter and perfect on-screen chemistry. But behind the scenes, between makeup sessions and stage lights, a silent war was brewing. No declarations, no drama, just a cold tension that seeped into every line, every glance. Rose Marie, the strong-willed actress once beloved for her sharp wit, never fully accepted Mary as the true star. In Rose's eyes, Mary was merely a talking vase, pretty, young, and overly pampered. As Mary began to win awards, attract media attention, and become the symbol of a generation, the jealousy could no longer be masked. Mary heard the passive-aggressive remarks, the jokes with hidden barbs, the glances that seemed to ask, "Do you really deserve this?" She never replied. But she remembered. She remembered being called a lucky actress. She remembered the mocking smile when she said she wanted to produce her own show. And most painfully, she remembered the satisfied look in Rose's eyes when a male director berated her in front of the entire crew and Rose simply turned away, offering no support. Mary didn't hate Rose for being a rival. She hated her because, in a moment when she needed someone to stand by her side, Rose chose to be a silent witness to her humiliation. The sting of jealousy doesn't lie in words, it lies in the gaze of someone you once considered a friend, silently waiting for you to fall. And when that envy comes from someone who once called you sister, the next name becomes a wound carved by betrayal, of friendship that couldn't survive the spotlight of fame. But it wasn't only those who came before her that left Mary heartbroken. The third name on her list belonged to someone younger, a woman she once saw as a little sister, someone she had nurtured from nothing, only to watch her turn away when the spotlight no longer shone in the same direction. Mary cherished Valerie Harper not just for her talent, but for her authenticity and warmth. She insisted on casting Valerie as Rhoda on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, a tough, witty, and charismatic character. Rhoda and Mary were best friends on screen, and for a time, they shared that same closeness off-screen, long nights, photo shoots, and late-night phone calls just to ask, "Are you okay?" Mary trusted Valerie. She shielded her from studio pressure and even turned down a few endorsement deals so Rhoda could have more time in the spotlight. But then, Rhoda got her own show. Valerie had her own stage. And suddenly, the calls stopped. The questions faded. Valerie began appearing on magazine covers alone, and in interviews, she smiled and said, "I think I can shine on my own now." Mary understood. Valerie no longer wanted to stand beside her, she wanted to surpass her. And the most painful moment? On Valerie's wedding day, there was no invitation. No message. Not even a goodbye. Mary didn't cry. But she never spoke Valerie's name again. No blame. No anger. Just a quiet decision to erase the name she once wrote first whenever someone asked, "Who's your closest friend on set?" Sometimes, betrayal doesn't come with shouting. It comes in the silence of someone who once loved you but chose to turn you into a shadow behind their spotlight. And if Valerie Harper's silence was a knife in the back from a beloved sister figure, then the next name belonged to the man who made Mary lose the belief that she was still worthy of being loved again. Valerie Harper was a quiet wound from a once beautiful friendship, but James Franciscus was a nightmare disguised as a miracle. Mary met James at one of the most vulnerable points in her life, when her marriage was falling apart, when the spotlight was starting to fade, and when all she needed was someone who simply wouldn't leave. James appeared as if he had stepped out of a romantic screenplay, handsome, composed, thoughtful, saying all the right things to make Mary believe she was still worthy of love. They shared long evenings just talking, no cameras, no fame, no distractions. Mary opened her heart. She spoke of the pain from her failed marriage, even about the son she always felt guilty for. James listened, or so she thought. Until one day, she discovered that James had been secretly dating a younger actress. A girl who once waited quietly backstage for Mary to finish her scenes. Someone who had respectfully called her Miss Mary, yet was now in the arms of the man Mary believed was her last chance at love. Mary didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply sat in silence, held her glass of wine, and said one thing: "I won't let anyone take any more of me." And she never spoke to James again. Because some betrayals don't break your heart, they break your belief that you deserve to be loved with kindness. And just when Mary thought she had grown used to the coldness of men, it was a woman with a gentle smile who made her realize, sometimes, the person who replaces you isn't an enemy, but the one who always stood beside you in every photo. Just when Mary thought she had grown used to the coldness of men, It was a woman with a gentle smile who made her realize that sometimes, the one who replaces you isn't an enemy, but the very person who always stood beside you in every photo. Betty White, the beloved figure of America, a symbol of humor, kindness, and grace, was also the final name Mary Tyler Moore mentioned among those who hurt her the most. There was no argument between them, no open rivalry, no scandalous rumors. And perhaps that's exactly why the pain cut deeper like a wound hidden beneath lipstick and sweet words. Betty had once been her co-star, her ally, even hailed by the media as Mary's television twin. They hugged on red carpets, accepted awards together, took countless photos, and laughed side by side on talk shows, like two women nothing could separate. But when the spotlight began to shift, Betty quietly moved forward, not by force, but without ever looking back. She began accepting roles Mary had declined, appeared solo in campaigns that were once shared by both. Slowly, the headlines began to speak of the Betty White era, while Mary's name faded from titles, from group photos, even from the very programs she had helped build. Mary didn't resent Betty for shining. She resented the quiet, graceful way Betty replaced her, not by fighting, not by stealing, but simply by staying. And becoming the one who was loved more. Mary once said, "I'm not afraid of being forgotten because I'm no longer in my prime. I'm afraid of being forgotten by the very person who stood beside me when I was still shining." And that final bitterness didn't come from rage. It came from the quiet devastation of being erased politely, elegantly, and without a trace. In the end, what hurts most is not losing your place, but being replaced so seamlessly that no one even remembers to say your name. For decades, Mary Tyler Moore chose to smile. When she was betrayed, she smiled. When she was replaced, she smiled. When her name was erased from the very things she helped build, she still smiled. Because she believed that audiences didn't come to see a woman in pain. They came to laugh, to forget their own sorrow. And Mary, like a gatekeeper of others' happiness, sacrificed her own pain to protect the joy of others. But at some point, even silence has to speak. Not to reclaim the spotlight. Not to chase fame. But simply to say, "I was hurt too. And I don't want to leave this world without ever having said it out loud." Grant Tinker. Rose Marie. Valerie Harper. James Franciscus. Betty White. 5 names, 5 wounds, 5 truths kept hidden behind the applause. Mary didn't speak out to assign blame. She spoke to remind us that behind the curtain, the strongest people are often the ones who've been left behind the most. And if you're hearing these words, maybe you too have been forgotten by someone. Replaced. Silently betrayed. Then remember the last thing Mary wanted to say: silence doesn't mean forgiveness. And moving on doesn't mean we were never hurt. Among the 5 names Mary called out, some took her love, some stole her friendships, and some erased her from the world she once helped create. As for you, who surprised you most on that list? And do you think Mary was right, or simply too bitter? Leave a comment below. We want to hear how you feel.